Hello, everyone. I'm Denise O'Malley, and it is absolutely my pleasure to introduce you to my friend, Peggy Green. Peggy is a mother, grief coach, author, and speaker, overcoming odds of the death of two children, one in an accident, the other by suicide. Her mission is to make an impact and help others grieving the loss of a child, especially to those by suicide. Her Amazon best-selling book, Life After Child Loss, The Mother's Survival Guide to Cope and Find Joy, and her Thursday Thoughts helps hundreds in their grief journey. Her passion is to share her Grief to Hope, Find Peace, Joy, and Happiness program, which is how she personally overcame her losses. She offers realistic and applicable practices that helps others to heal. Peggy is a Colorado native who loves being outdoors. She lives in Highlands Ranch, close to her family. Peggy holds bachelor's degrees in business marketing and exercise science. She is inspiring and a true example that there is hope after child loss by suicide. And Peggy is a blood donor, having donated blood almost 100 times. Peggy's talk today is a recipe for dealing with holiday anxiety. And please help me welcome Peggy to the stage.
Thank you very much, Denise. And first of all, I want to thank everybody for coming and taking the time to work on you. Just like Alan was talking about, this is a form of self-care. So I want you to take a breath and realize that you are taking the right steps to take care of yourself. Do you wonder if the pain will ever go away? Are you feeling the heaviness of the holidays? Does the thought of celebrating Christmas cause anxiety? I know the feeling. I understand. I think we have a lot in common. If it's okay with you, I'll share my story. While driving home in rush hour traffic on a Friday afternoon on a cold Colorado winter day, much like it is today, I was lost in thought, thinking about the coming weekend, and Christmas, which was just a few weeks away. Christmas is my favorite holiday. I love the lights on the houses, the highways, homemade cookies, Swedish tea rings, and having my family together. My thoughts were interrupted when my phone rang. It was my daughter, and it was quite common for us to talk while I was driving home from work. Her usual greeting was, "Hi, Mama." But on this day, something felt different. I pulled off the highway, and the words that she could barely utter are forever burned into my memory. She said, "I don't know how to tell you this, but Connor is dead. He killed himself." You see, Connor is my son. Connor is my only son. He was just getting started in his life, his career. He was only 24 years old. I screamed at the top of my lungs, gripping the steering wheel so tightly, my knuckles turned white. My breath was taken away. I yelled, "Oh God, why? How could this happen? How? How could I survive the loss of a second child?" This took me to my nightmare of 27 years earlier when I lost my firstborn. A parent's worst nightmare is to have a child die before them. It is not the natural order of things. Type in the chat box if you find yourself thinking the same thing. I could not believe it. And once the shock wore off, I don't know how long, I don't remember, but I came to terms that I survived the loss of one child and would and could do it again. And with the loss of my first child, I looked everywhere for help and resources and could not find them. That's 30 years ago. I felt like I walked this journey alone. I scrambled and clawed my way to my new norm by creating and using my own methods along the way, combining my personal training and my nutrition coaching together and my desires of being outdoors, those self-care activities that Alan talked about. And look at those people who are saying they felt the same thing. I have Diana and Carrie and Jill. Yes, we've all experienced the same thing. I walked that journey alone. And in between those losses of children, I experienced other family deaths. My father by cancer, my sister by cancer, my mother by old age and cancer. And what I discovered is that those 30 years and recovering and moving through those losses has helped me to survive the suicide of my son. I knew I would survive it. But in the moment, it's not easy to understand why. Why did my children pass so long? Why did it have to be cancer? Why, oh, why? I couldn't answer that question, but it's now been revealed to me. And really, God is preparing me to face this loss by equipping me with all those things I experienced before. And let me clarify, God is not responsible for my losses. However, he has given me the strength and courage to overcome this tragedy and this heartache. I can say I've been able to move through my grief. It's not always been pain-free and easy. It's not an easy journey. It takes time, it takes effort, it takes work. The ratio of sadness is no longer 100% sadness and 0% joy. Now it's closer to 5 or 10% sadness and 90 to 95% joy. Because that's what it's called to be a human. Human beings are meant to experience emotions, both good and bad. But I feel like I'm human now, a balanced human. I enjoy spending time with my family without guilt now. The important thing here is that I also remember and love my 2 children in heaven and 2 on earth. My life is as normal as it can be. We celebrate birthdays, even for those who have passed. I've learned to embrace the changes in holidays as they've taken on new look and new meaning. I find peace that who have gone before me are looking down on me and encouraging me to be happy. I have energy. I cherish the moments, value time with my family, and now have a new, deep appreciation for life. Do you feel like your appreciation for life has changed? Type in the chat box, yes, or what has changed and what you value more. I also found purpose to move forward. I now help women move through physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual suffering caused by child loss. Yes, India, you said you've been shifting your perspective. And so I wrote Life After Child Loss, the Mother Survival Guide to Cope and Find Joy. And I became a grief coach. And not everyone who loses a child will write a book or become a grief coach. You can move through your loss and move into your new norm. So I'm Peggy Green, your author and grief coach and public speaker. So in the next 15 minutes, I'm going to share with you a recipe for reducing your holiday anxiety by planning. Regardless of where you are in your loss journey, your first holiday season, umpteenth one, or somewhere in between, you will learn practical tips that you can use today, this holiday season, and in the future. Use this recipe. You will learn and experience less anxiety during the holidays. If you haven't already realized it, the holiday season is upon us and we're in the thick of it. And it's whether you like it or not. Everywhere you look, you see signs of happiness and cheer. However, you may feel like you want to crawl back into bed and yell at anybody just because they didn't turn on their blinker. Since my son died just 10 days before Christmas, I remember putting on that cheerful smile during the day, then coming home and crying myself to sleep. Have you experienced something like this? Yes, I'm seeing that pop up in the chat box. Yes, yes, and yes. I believe, based on my personal and unique experience surviving holiday anxiety, if you have lost a child, and more specifically one to suicide, this simple and easy recipe will give you confidence that you will make it through the holidays. Are you ready to hear more? So when working with my client, Megan, she told me the weeks and days leading up to Thanksgiving were unbearable and that her anxiety was out the roof. She was thinking about what she was doing with her daughter the year before, her last and final moments with her, and how much she misses her. I reassured her this was very common and told her I have a recipe for reducing her anxiety. I gave her this exact same recipe I'm going to teach you. And when we met again, just recently after Thanksgiving, she told me she used the recipe and found that the buildup was worse than the holiday itself. So here's the 7 steps to the recipe. 1, recognize the holidays are different without your child, without your loved one. And we know that the holidays come around every 365 days, which allows us to plan in advance what you want to do. Do not wait until the last minute. If you decide not to celebrate once you've made that decision, it's important that you share it with others. Is this something you have been challenged with? Accepting things are different and you aren't sure how to manage the change? Part 2, step 2 of this recipe. Plan what you want to do for the holiday. Do you want to maintain all the traditions when your child or your loved one was with you? Do you want to have entirely new traditions? Or will it be a combination of the two that give you the most peace? Here's an example. If you hang Christmas stockings, you may continue to hang the one for your child, then you may add a candle lighting as something new. Do what feels right for you. My new client, Bev, was expressing anger, resentment, and anxiety about the empty seat at this last Thanksgiving. Excuse me. She did not want to feel that way for Christmas. Instead, she wanted to remember her son in a positive way. We talked about it, and she decided to set an empty seat at the dinner table to honor him. The empty seat is a place setting the table, much like you would have for all your other guests. However, no one sits at it, and it remains unused, and it's reserved for your loved one. So Bev decided to put a picture just at the top of her plate, the plate for her son, and in the empty water glass, she would place an ornament that was made specifically for her son, just like Ellen was talking about those special ornaments. And as a final touch, she's planning to have a printed copy of the empty chair poem. She's planning on having her surviving son read the poem out loud at dinner. And she's looking forward to doing this and honoring her son. I want to share this poem with you. The Empty Chair. Time cannot heal the emptiness or fill the empty chair, the one that's in the family room. I see it empty there. Or the chair that's at the table where together we would dine. Although I sit there still, the only hands that pray are mine. Still, I give thanks to God each day. I pray this comes true. You save an empty chair for me when I come home to you. Third part of this recipe. What are your plans to decorate? Decide how much and when. You may want to recruit others to help you. You may want to do it alone. Change your routine. Create a new tradition. This year, I decided to buy new decorations and changed up how I decorated with the old ones. Part 4 of this, plan the meal. What's on the menu? Are you going to include something that was favorite of your loved one? Make it a potluck. Have others contribute, but planning ahead. And 5, plan what time you start and what time it will end. I find this is very, very important because during this holiday season, it is easy for us to get to that tipping point where we're going to break. If you're hosting the event, tell your guests in advance what time you want them to leave so they're not surprised when you say, this party's over. Or if you're going to an event, give yourself that permission and say, okay, I'm only going to go for so long, and then leave so that you don't push yourself to that tipping point. Part 6, set gift giving boundaries. And if you decide to shop for presents, keep it super simple. That's the KISS principle. Keep it super simple. Instead of a lot of gifts, make it one per person. Or another option is to draw names, make it a white elephant and making it fun. Be sure to make a list of those who you're buying for with a budget. Writing things helps you to be organized. Maybe even consider having someone else do your shopping and wrapping. Do not feel obligated to do it if it's not right for you. And the last part and final 7th part of our recipe is managing your expectations for the holiday. Expectations around the holiday are what you can and cannot control. And if you are trying to control everything, it causes frustration and anxiety. So grieving the loss of a loved one, your holiday traditions could bring up memories that amplify your grief. So manage realistic expectations for the holiday. You can prevent big frustration and disappointment and causing your grief to deepen. And you may even want to change those expectations. Think about this. You may not want to expect to have a perfect family gathering, especially if your family gatherings were never perfect in the first place. Do not expect yourself to commit to more than you can handle. When we take on this busyness, we get ourselves so caught up that we can't function. Don't take on more than you can handle. So along with that, do not expect yourself to run at Mach speed and perform at your usual pace. So these 7 steps will reduce your anxiety. The death of a loved one by suicide can strip you away of that sense of control. Remember, you asked why or how could they do this? I remember those questions at the beginning. Did you have those kind of questions? Answer in the chat box. Did you feel like you lost control? I know I did. Yes, and yes, yes. Did you feel uncertain and afraid? Yeah, friends and family absolutely losing control. So planning what you do, how you do it, and with whom you celebrate will bring back that control. You have control over you. You don't have control over the people around you. So control your situation and your circumstances. Now, while it does not bring back your loved one, it does give you power. So to summarize this recipe, there are 7 steps. 1, recognize, accept the holidays are different now. 2, plan what you want to do for the holiday. 3, make plans for how you want to decorate. 4, plan the meal. 5, plan what time you will start and end your celebration. 6, set gift-giving boundaries. 7, and manage your expectations. As arduous as it seems, you will survive the holidays in one piece. I know, I've been there. Because of your grief, this holiday might be too exceedingly difficult. However, you will get through it and come out on the other side stronger than before. It's okay to have a good time in spite of your grief. If happiness slips through your window of grief, allow it to happen and enjoy it. Thank you, Laura. Thank you. I appreciate it. I am happy to share my experience and my tips. You will not be doing your loved one an injustice by feeling joyous. The best gift you can give anyone you love is that of being true to yourself and living your life to the fullest, even as you adjust to the loss and remember your loved one. One of the most common questions that people ask me is, Peggy, how do I work with you? My answer is, let's see if we are a fit. I offer a free grief breakthrough session to do just that. In this session, you will receive a 55-minute one-on free coaching session with me, a suicide loss survivor and grief coach. We do it through video conferencing so we can meet from anywhere. It's secure, it's you, it's me, one-on-one. And I understand what it's like to lose a child to suicide. You will understand that you are experiencing is normal and it's a natural response to death. You'll have a safe haven to express your emotions. You will feel less alone. You'll feel hope. You'll have a recipe to get where you start to get you through your journey. You'll feel confident again and you will find purpose. You can schedule your free grief breakthrough session by visiting my website, thegriefspecialist.com. And that's T-H-E-E. And I say T-H-E-E because the magnitude of my losses, not only have I experienced the loss of my family members, immediate family, but I've lost a niece to suicide. My oldest daughter has her best friend who died by suicide. So I come at that point from having been through grief and having survived it. So you'll find that website on the chat box. The schedule button is easy to find. It is in orange and it actually says, schedule your free breakthrough session. Whether you work with me or not, what is important is that you move forward. Before you decide who you want to work with, there are 3 criteria I recommend you use to help determine who you'll work with. And number 1, consider, does the person you want to work with have practical experience with child loss, with suicide? Remember, I have been through both. And number 2, does the person have the passion to be working as a grief coach? I believe lost travelers deserve to have support and guidance to learn to live with joy and grief. Number 3, have they personally used the tools and techniques they offer to you? The tools I share with you, just like this today, are 100% responsible for me being here and able to support you. I know deep and down, those resources I created will work. There's a number of people that put it off, try it on their own. They come back to me later saying they wish they would have done it earlier. And I don't think you want to be one of those. I want to leave you with one last story. After my son passed away, I started posting on Facebook. I was being vulnerable in sharing my heartache, confusion, and despair. However, having the mindset that I am strong and courageous, my posts were not just about grief. They also included my methods and tips on how I was dealing with my loss. There were many people who responded to my posts. They messaged me. They were benefiting by what I was sharing. Some of them talked about their child loss or parent loss. Others include the difficult times they were experiencing, such as divorce, changes in job, and anxiety. It was here through Facebook that I knew I was onto something. I am blessed to have developed the resources to move through my grief. And ever since I was in college, I've understood the importance of having a coach, whether for sports or business. And when Connor died, I hired a coach to help me. They inspired me to write my book, Life After Child Loss, and be here to develop my grief coaching program. This was huge in my personal grief journey. And sometimes we can all get stuck in our grief. We don't have to do it alone. And it takes a coach or mentor to move us along. I can be that coach for you. I can be the one to bear witness to your loss and get you to where you thought you would never be again, which is peace, joy, and happiness.